작가님께서 하셨던 한 인터뷰에서 유치원 때부터 이 행복 커리큘럼을 도입해야 한다 하셨더라고요.
Yeah, very much so. I think that just as children learn how to read and write and add and subtract, they need to study happiness, and from a very young age. So when we create a curriculum, for example, for young children, how do we teach them? We teach them through stories. So, you know, stories that you read to your children at night or stories that they read at school. I'll give you two examples of stories that we teach children. Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison is arguably the greatest inventor in history. He's also the greatest failure of all time. Thomas Edison has failed more times than any other scientist that we know of. In fact, he said it himself. He said, "I failed my way to success." Why? Because it's through failure that we learn. Whether it's when we're designing a building, whether it's when we're learning how to sing, or whether it's when we're learning how to talk or walk, we first fall or write. So failure is an inevitable and important part of success. And we need to teach that to children because so many of our children are afraid of failing. They want to be perfect.
실패를 가르치고.
To have a straight line up, that's not realistic, that's impossible. And it's through the story of Thomas Edison that we can teach this value.
저는 커리큘럼을 도입해야 된다는 말에 전적 동의하는 게 예를 들면 북유럽의 고대 사회 때 바이킹들은 자유라는 것을 약탈이라고 배웠어요. 그러니까 진짜로 그러니까 자유민이라는 것은 배를 몰고 가서 약탈을 해서 물건을 뺏어오는 사람인 거예요. 그러니까 지금 우리가 그렇게 하면 끔찍해하는 이야기죠, 그렇죠? 그런 것처럼 어렸을 때 교육은 진짜 중요한 것 같아요. 실패할 수 있는 권리도 누려보는 거죠. 한 번도 그런 경험이 없잖아요, 그렇죠?
사실 우리 학교에서 실패는 매일 가르치고 있어요. 너 1등 못했지? 그러면은 한 반에 50명 중에서 49명은 실패를 이미 경험하고 있는 거지만 그 실패를 어떠한 방식으로 배우느냐가 또 저는 다른 것 같아요. 맞아요. 저희 때는 50명인데 요즘 20명이죠. 네. 근데 그래서 이게 실패를 할 수 있는 기회에 너무나 동감하지만 현실적으로는 실패를 경험하고 그래 또 할 수 있어로 가는 사람보다는 나는 머리가 안 좋은가 봐, 못하나 봐, 나는 능력이 안 되나 봐 라고 오히려 스스로의 어떤 우울함에 함몰되는 사람들이 많은데 어떠한 방식으로 실패를 경험할 수 있게 사회가 바뀌든지 아니면 선생님들이 바뀌어야지만 말씀하신 것 같은 실패로부터 우리가 행복을 배울 수 있을까? 그게 또 궁금합니다.
That's, to my mind, one of the most important questions when we're raising children, because their ability to embrace failure affects both their happiness and their success throughout life. How do we do it? First of all, by admitting our failures, by sharing with them where we have failed, where we struggle, where we are human, and what we learned from it. And we lead by example. Every time they fail, rather than putting them down, we celebrate it and ask them, so what have you learned? How can you grow from it? Well done for trying. What is the lesson in this failure? In other words, create an environment where failure is not only okay, where failure is actually celebrated, where we learn from it and grow from it.
저는 말씀을 듣다 보니까 조금 궁금한 점이 생겼는데요. 아실 것 같지만 한국 사회는 지금 미국 사회보다 조금 더 명문대에 입학해서 좋은 직장을 가지지 않으면 성공할 수 없고 행복할 수 없다라는 생각이 사회 전체에 만연해 있거든요. 그래서 그 생각 때문에 아이들이 입시 교육으로 굉장히 고통을 받고 있고 이런 사회에서 한국 부모들이 자녀에게 행복을 어떻게 하면 행복을 추구할 수 있는지를 교육해야 한다면 지금 아까 말씀 주신 부분은 조금 이상적인 말씀인 것 같아서.
Yeah. You know, that is very challenging. And, you know, I encountered, obviously, at Harvard, many students, whether it's from Korea, whether it's from China, whether it's from the United States, whose parents put a lot of pressure on them.
그렇죠.
And it's a story that's similar to my story, where for me it was so important to be successful, to be perfect, whether it was in sports, whether it was in school. And so many people live their lives based on this. On what? On believing that to be happy, you need to be successful. And the question is, can you have the best of both worlds? In other words, can you still be successful and happy? And the answer is yes, and the answer is yes, it's challenging. What can you do, for example? The first thing to recognize is that we can be a lot better at the things that we're also passionate about.
좋아하는 거랑 잘하는 걸 다 찾으라는 말씀이시네요.
And that is the challenge for parents. The challenge is to expose children to different things, to expose them to writing code on computers. Maybe that's it for them, to expose them to business, to expose them to working with animals, to expose them to different things and help them find that passion that they're good at. And then they can have the best of both worlds.